Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report. We're going to cover everything. We're going to cut through all the propaganda, give it to you straight from left, right, and center. The opinions are what counts. Hello everybody, Mark Schaftlein with you, and this is the Schaftlein Report on Patriot TV. Happy to have you with me today. Listen, when the president announced this war with Iran, he said it was going to be 4 to 6 weeks. And we're just finishing up week 4 as we air. And I have to tell you, stock markets globally, but particularly let's focus on the US, are in solid correction territory as oil is hovering, WTI, West Texas Intermediate, between $95 and $100 a barrel. Brent crude is about $10 a barrel higher than that. Higher prices are a big concern among American consumers and voters. As oil prices hover at these levels, farmers are being hurt on a double-edged sword, not only by higher fuel prices, but also fertilizer prices. Little do we know that 25% of the world's fertilizer comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So, prices, and here's the real problem underneath the stock market and underneath the Federal Reserve and borrowing costs. Right now, folks, inflation is running north at 3%, well above the Fed's target goal of 2%. And although it had shown signs towards the end of last year and the first quarter of this year of coming down into the 2.4, 2.6 range, with oil prices going up the way they have, gasoline up $1 a gallon, and of course jet fuel way up, diesel fuel way up, and all the other products that oil goes into, you can expect higher inflation numbers going forward. Now, what does that mean? Well, the 10-year note, as we're sitting here speaking today, is hovering around 4.5%. Folks, that's up 50 basis points approximately from where it was before the war started. So you're having a situation where farmers are getting hit, consumers are getting hit, interest rates, 10-year note rising, stock market in full correction mode, and consumers very concerned about the economic impact and how long this is going to last. I mean, if the war ended tomorrow, it would still take a ways to get oil flowing back through. Bear in mind, folks, 97% of traffic through the Strait of Hormuz has been closed. So one of two things is going to have to happen here. There's either going to have to be a military action or a negotiated action to get those straits opened up. Because as it stands right now, yes, are military objectives being achieved all over Iran? Yes, they are, both from the Israeli point of view and from the U.S. point of view. But until these straits get opened and all the oil and the fertilizer and aluminum and other cargo that flows through that area get restarted, you're going to have log jams. And while the president in his news conference earlier in the week said he had anticipated oil to go up and that there would be some correction in the market, and he used the term, I thought it would be higher and the correction would be deeper, tell that to people who are feeling it in their pocketbook right now. So there needs to be some concerted effort put forward here to deal with this issue, like I said, either on a negotiated basis or on a military basis, because the status quo is not working. Now, yes, we're having great military success, as I said. I mean, it is ahead of schedule, as the president said. But when you have the Iranians out there contemplating charging $2 million a tanker, $2 million per tanker, you know what that's going to end up doing, folks? It's going to create a shift, and it's already started happening. I call it a global shift to where the way goods and services are routed across the globe. Think about this. You got the Panama Canal, that narrow strip of land where there's a canal built where you can transport goods between the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. You may start to see alternative methods being developed to get goods, services, oil, fertilizer, etc., around the Strait of Hormuz. That's not going to be an easy task, though. You're talking canals, pipelines, those take a long time to build. So, with the straits only getting through 3% of its traffic, a global shift in routes and pipelines will occur, but boy, that will take some time. So, again, you've seen the successes day in, day night about everything the military is accomplishing. You've seen the declassified videos that the military is allowing us to see. Now, coverage has been, let's call it, by some of the legacy media, we talked about that on previous shows, less than flattering. But even some of the administration's sharpest critics will acknowledge the military success that's taken place. Not everyone, of course. You're never going to get some of these left-wing radical kooks on board. But overall, from a military achievement perspective, hats off to military leaders, the troops, the pilots that are executing these missions. Now, there's a lot of debate going on. Well, will we have ground troops going into Iran? Well, the Pentagon basically said that they are considering 10,000 U.S. troops to the region. I don't know if that's real or if it's a negotiating tactic. It's probably real. There were reports the 82nd Airborne, those are paratroopers, folks, based out of Kentucky, my original home, my home state. So I'm quite familiar with that outfit. So, could there be an attack planned on Carg Island? Would there be resistance? Sure, there would be. Bear in mind, the Iranians, there's been reports that they've set up mines. They've got these Stinger missiles they can shoot. So this is no easy task. That may be why the Pentagon is preparing for it. I would guess that's the case. But that's going to be no small feat if they go in to do that. That will be clearly an escalation. And then what do you have to do to continue securing it? And again, 90% of Iran's economy is through oil sales. Does that bring down the remaining regime? Don't know. So while the U.S. and the Israelis have exercised damn near a flawless military plan, and as the president says, ahead of schedule, the Iranians are sort of going back to the old rope-a-dope strategy. Take the punches, take the punches, take the punches, like Ali Foreman fight, and then create economic stress. Bear in mind, the Iranians no longer have any friends in the region other than the Houthis. I mean, they are firing missiles at the United Arab Emirates, lots of them. They fired into Saudi Arabia, Qatar. So, I mean, the Saudis are even considering joining the U.S. and Israel military force. We'll see if that happens. But the Iranians have clearly gone all out on an economic war front. And on that aspect, it has had some success. Now, how will we deal with that? We're going to see. I mean, think about this, folks. The United States alone has hit almost 10,000 military targets in Iran. Add that to what the Israelis have done. Just this past week, another military leader of the Iranians was taken out. So the question is, who is the U.S. dealing with? We really don't know for sure. Are there negotiations happening? I got to believe there is. The Iranians say no. The administration says yes. I got to believe those are taking place. But U.S. presented a 15-point peace plan, and you've gotten really nothing back on it. The Iranians have made their demands, and it's like a giant ocean away. I mean, they're like Republicans and Democrats. No pun intended. We're going to get into that in a minute. But think about this: 10,000 targets hit. So again, going back to what I said before, the military success is evident. But now you have to deal with the economic fallout from it. And that's what we're dealing with. The administration came out and announced, the president, unfortunately, had said we've got 90% of their missiles. Well, back up now, back. That's not exactly the case. As the Pentagon came out and said, we really can't identify how many missiles are left because they're stored or hidden in underground bunkers. Now, have they gotten rid of a lot of the rocket launchers? Yes, they have. But there's still missiles being launched at their Arab neighbors. So, the Pentagon came out and said, it's somewhere between 30 and 90%. I mean, it's a big gap. And you got to believe, based on the activity, a good chunk of them have been taken out, particularly the launchers. Again, they may have missiles, but if they don't have launchers, they're not going anywhere. But until they get rid of all of them, the skies are definitely not going to be safe. So, Iranian missiles still available. Stockpiles remain unclear. Pentagon possibly sending 10,000 troops to the Middle East. The 82nd Airborne already on their way. We know that. So Trump is beefing up military assets. I don't know. This is a tough one. But again, don't kid yourself. Overwhelming military success. They have no Navy. That's gone. They have no Air Force. That's gone. Top leadership taken out. Secondary leadership taken out. Unclear as to who's leading Iran right now. So we'll see. We'll see how it plays itself out. But one thing interesting about this, the president approval rating during this period of time has hovered around 45%. Among the military, it's closer to 60. So obviously his military calls and the activity is being met with pretty good support. Now, the approval for the war hovers around the low 40s and disapproval in the mid to upper 50s. So not great, but when you consider the fact that gasoline prices are up $1 since it started, there's a lot of uncertainty. Stock market is in correction territory. Interest rates are on the rise. Folks, there is no way to sugarcoat it. That is not the economic formula that you want to see. As we move forward, the question you have to ask is, okay, what's going to happen next? And as I told you, interest rates are going to continue to remain up. They are going to have to stabilize and get shipping going through the straits, because the status quo, I just don't see that, as working. And again, think about this. Great military success, but there's got to be an exit plan. Okay, look, we're going to take a short 30-second break. But when we come back, we have politics at home to cover with you. There's some incredibly dumb stuff being done in our Congress. We're going to break it all down for you. Be back in 30.
Sadie, why don't more people know about the health benefits of Glucodown soluble fiber? That it lowers blood sugar, especially after meals?
Glucodown drink mixes are enriched with soluble fiber for healthy blood sugar. It's diabetic-friendly nutrition, and it's clinically proven.
Glucodown's clinically proven soluble fiber helps maintain blood sugar in a healthy range, especially after meals.
Glucodown is a game changer.
Keep your blood sugar healthy. Try all 8 flavors of Glucodown.
Available at Amazon or in the diabetic care aisle at your local pharmacy.
All right, let's get to some domestic politics here. And folks, at first I thought the Democratic Party was the party of stupid, where you couldn't do anything dumber than what they did on the TSA thing. I mean, 8 times, 8 Republicans tried to get the House-approved bill through the Senate so that Senate could pass the House bill, could reopen government, and President could sign it. TSA workers would get paid. Nope. They blocked it at every stretch they could. So we go into Friday, and you expect, well, okay. Well, what does Donald Trump do? Pulls the old rabbit out of the hat and says, okay, Congress isn't going to approve it. We're going to take funding that's already in the big, beautiful bill, and we're going to use that to pay the TSA agents. Well, the Senate goes into full-blown panic. Because now, if they're going to get paid, what leverage do the Democrats in the Senate have? None is the answer. So what do? The Senate unanimously passes a compromise bill. Address TSA funding, funding for FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Associate, funded the Coast Guard. Okay, left out ICE funding, but again, we're told ICE is funded for 3 years from the big, beautiful bill. So then what happens after that? Well, since the Senate modified the House bill, the bill has to go back to the House. And now Democrats who were saying they would never support this bill are saying we have to get TSA funded. I mean, folks, it's like a 180 both ways. And right Friday afternoon, now the Republicans in House leadership say they will not support this bill. Huh? What? I mean, if they had supported it, could have gone to the president to be signed. Now the Senate's gone for 2 weeks, and Republicans in the House are furious about what? You know, I mean, we're conservatives on this show almost every time we take the Republican side because that's what we believe. We believe most of the decisions are right. But boy, this time is a head scratcher. Why? They've always known they could do additional ICE funding through reconciliation. That's the word I was looking for. But wait a minute. ICE has already funded 3 years. So literally the Democrats got nothing that they wanted in that Senate passed bill. Nothing. No reforms to ICE, no changes, nada, nothing. And yet now that bill comes back and our leadership is fuming that they're not going to get a vote on it. Conservatives are mad about what? We've been clamoring to get TSA paid. So these ridiculous long lines will stop. And we'll, where I thought it was solely the Democrats' fault, and I put almost all the blame on them. If the Senate passed a bill 100-0, and what choice did they have after Trump said they were going to fund it? I mean, the proper way would be to have the bill go back to the House votes on it, passes, and they get funded. But that's not going to happen now. Folks, I cannot tell you what the motivation is. I don't get it. And I really believe that. They were the ones holding this up. But now after it passes the Senate unanimously, and now the House says no, okay, well, man, if I'm TSA employees or Coast Guard or FEMA, I am really ticked off right now. Thank goodness. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take the president to get those funds released. Don't know that. But unless some magic is pulled out of the hat on the House side, with the Senate gone now for 2 weeks, your guess is as good as mine what's going to happen now. This is a problem, folks. The radical left, they controlled the Democratic Party. They could not care less about TSA lines and Coast Guard and FEMA. It's not, they literally don't care. They would love to inflict pain on the American people. But when finally, after Trump's threat to pay him and the Senate passed it unanimously, it goes back to the House, I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. Not in favor of this type of politics at all. Look, it's going to be hard enough already. Look, the Republicans, they're still behind the Democrats in the generic ballot. It's like 45, 42, okay? But that's a gain of 3 points from where they were back in January. So they've cut the deficit in half. Why? Because the Democrats are doing so many damn foolish things. It's not just this. I mean, almost everything they stand for is just the American public doesn't like it. The Save America Act, good example. 80% of Americans approve of it. Oh, no, not the Democrats in the Senate and the House. No. I mean, it passed the House narrowly, but the Senate, they're not going to get 60 votes in the Senate on this bill. And it's 80% approval. Why? Because senators, wait a second, people aren't smart enough to get an ID. Folks, in almost every country in the world, you have to have a state-issued voter ID to vote. Damn near every country. But not here in the U.S. Why? Because the Democratic Party's constituency is illegal immigrants. You know it as well as they've come out and admitted it. Chris Murphy, our constituency is illegal immigrants. Huh? What? We know the far left-wing radical base is what controls them. But if you can't get something over the finish line on something that's 80% Americans approve of, wow. No wonder the Democratic Party is approval rating somewhere around 27%. We'll see if that translates into victory or defeat in the fall, but some of these policies, oh God. Think about that. They can't get the SAVE Act and 80% of Americans approve of voter ID. And the lame brain excuses Schumer's making, I mean, he looks like a laughing stock. When he comes out, he's like Baghdad Bob. He just comes out and lies. Well, hopefully it catches up with him. Now, some practical things seem to be happening now. All right. We mentioned to you a little bit about the economics. Well, New York State tries to impose a millionaires and a billionaires tax. It's not going over really well. A lot of the billionaires moved out of New York City. All of a sudden, Governor Kathy Hochul is begging them to come back because guess what? Oh, New York has a multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall. That's right. And they're asking the wealthy to come back. Well, why did they leave? Because the wealthy already pay about 85% of the taxes, and New York wanted more. And the waste of money in these blue states and all these ridiculous Democratic programs that just wastes money, people are tired of funding it. So what do people do? All of a sudden, there's big demand for houses in Miami. All the rich New Yorkers are leaving New York to go to Miami. Can you blame them? Reckless spending, high taxes. Same thing was under consideration in the state of California. Interesting story there. There's a primary coming up June 2nd. There's 10 candidates running for governor. Hell, in the jungle primary, two of the top two candidates right now are Republicans, Sheriff Bianco and Steve Hilton. There's 8 Democrats in back of them, some well-known, some not. There's an outside chance, I don't say outside, there is a chance California could elect a Republican governor because in a jungle primary, all parties run the same primary, top 2 finishers. I mean, you could have that. We'll see. And then a little bit more of a what I'll call common sense narrative, not associated with politics in this country. Well, sort of is. The International Olympic Committee has issued a ban on transgender women participating in sports. It's about time. Common sense. Well, we told you there were some common sense things going on. And irony of ironies, we have a Democratic Congresswoman. Her name is Sheila Sheriff-Luce McCormick. She's out of Florida. Interesting. She faces expulsion from the House. Why? What did she do? She was charged with embezzling $5 million of stolen FEMA funds. FEMA funds, I think, was used during the COVID era. Allegations that even her own Democratic colleagues do not seem to be defending her. It was interesting. I saw a little piece on a re-election campaign. One campaign, she had a $100,000 plus ring on. Then once they noticed it, they erased it. Not a good thing to have happen when you're charged with embezzling, especially $5 million and you're facing expulsion from the House. Yikes. So let's sort of summarize where we are. Let's sort of tie it together, if you will. We've had great military success in Iran with the Israelis, the U.S. and the Israelis. The bombings continue, military targets taken out, but economic progress is a problem. Stock markets are down, oil prices are up, gasoline prices are up, heating oil prices are up, jet fuel is up, fertilizer costs are way up, aluminum costs. All those costs are going in. What's the number one thing Americans are concerned about? High costs. So while there's a lot of oil floating around, and the president has authorized release of the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, until that Strait issue gets resolved, it's going to be problematic. Because here's the thing, folks. Once these prices get into the system, they tend to be sticky. And I can assure you that is a political problem that's going to have to be dealt with, because if prices are this elevated and gasoline, again, doesn't come down fast enough by the time people start to vote in the midterms, it is not going to be pleasant. People vote their pocketbook. Yes, they want to see military success. Overwhelming support for the military. But when you see situations where, like in California, gas is $6.50 to $7 a gallon. In states where it used to be 2 to 3, it's now 3 to 4. And again, folks, it filters through the entire economy. So what you don't want to have happen is these prices get sticky and stay. And here's, again, I talked a little bit about it earlier, 3%, north of 3% inflation, that makes it difficult to cut rates. Although you can make the argument that because of the employment situation in the war, the Fed should be cutting rates. But they didn't at their last meeting. And the futures markets on Wall Street are saying there will only be one cut this year. And with the 10-year note going up to 4.5%, bear in mind, the Fed can influence short-term rates. They can't do long-term rates. No, 10-year notes, 4.5%, up 50 basis points. And that goes into borrowing costs. That increases mortgage rates. Guess what? You increase mortgage rates, there's less people to buy homes. Already in certain parts of the country, home prices are falling. Trust me, I can attest to it in the state of Florida. So, again, oil filters through everything. Farmers, the president's talking about an aid package for farmers, $12 billion. And folks, this is coming on top of the fact we now have a $39 trillion deficit. So, again, we don't want to sugarcoat it. Rising interest rates, increasing oil prices, nervousness among the American public about prices they're already paying that are high, long lines at TSA, at airports, some airports better than others. This Straits issue has got to get resolved pretty soon. Can you sort of get the underlying theme that we're talking about here? Because the economic numbers are going the wrong way. And yes, great military success, but we have to combine that with the economic success too. Have the goals been achieved in Iran? Well, it depends who you listen to. If the goal was for denuclearization, I think the answer is yes. Regime change, no. So fast-moving stories, folks. But the nice thing is this. Again, you're going to hear the spin everywhere else. If you're a lefty, you're going to say, worst thing in the world. If you're a righty, you say, everything's good. Listen, we're telling it to you straight here. There are issues, and the administration needs to clamp down on some of these issues and get things going economically in the right direction. Because market corrections, high oil prices, high gas prices, fuel, those are not winning issues, believe me. So we know what we need to do. We've got very, very competent people in the administration. Mark Wayne Mullen was approved for his position, DHS, earlier in the week. We got a great Treasury Secretary. Trump really complimented him at the cabinet meeting. Rubio and Vance are going all over the place trying to get deals done. So we got to hope that the administration, working with the Israelis, continue with the military objectives, but now let's focus on that Strait and get the economic objectives achieved. Okay, thanks for viewing. Thanks for watching, folks. We'll be back next week. As always, Schaftlein Report, Patriot TV. We're also on Rumble. Thanks for viewing. Catch you later.
AI is everywhere, but none of it does everything. Until now, meet Real Intelligence, RI. The one AI that does it all better. It generates cinema-quality 4K videos, unreal images, and award-worthy music, all in one platform. RI even writes code and handles advanced research at your command. No more juggling multiple apps or settling for less. Your creativity deserves one powerhouse. Real intelligence, better at everything, all in one place. Try RI now for free at tryrinow.com.